What's good, y'all? I want to give a quick shout out to one of our September sponsors, Ash and Elm Cider. If you don't already know, Ash and Elm are all about that cider life, crafting theirs from real, regionally sourced ingredients and doing it right here on the east side of Indianapolis. And while they celebrate cider all year round, they turn it up to 11 for Autumn Tidings, their annual fall festival happening this year on October 18th. Go to ashandelmcider.com to learn more, grab your ticket to Autumn Tidings, and discover why so many people love Ash and Elm. Rooted in tradition, crafted for today. Ash and Elm, conversation piece. Y'all know what it is. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Conversation Piece, your place to discover the untold stories of Indianapolis through the perspectives of all of its wonderful people. My name is Patrick Armstrong. I am your host, and I am very excited to be back in 2025, the year of community. It is September now. We have just come off of our break, and what a lovely break that it was. You did see some open doors come out. And you probably popped up at some sort of event that we were at. So if you were one of those people, thank you. We appreciate your support. And if you're interested in the open door, go to conversationpiecePod.com and click the open door up at the top. Without further ado, though, I am very excited to be kicking off the back half of our 2025 year with this conversation. My guest today does and has done so many things that it would truly take about 5 to 10 minutes to read all of it. And even then, I don't think it would do justice to the work that she's been doing in the city and state, in the world in general. So instead of all of that, which you can read yourself by clicking any of the links in the show notes that we have, I will say that in addition to those things, and being one of Indiana's most important political strategists and advocates, she is also a traveler, an aunt, a daughter, a friend, and a church lady, which I will sum up with equals one wonderful human being. I cannot express how excited I am for this conversation, so we're going to get right to it. It is my great privilege and joy to welcome Elise Shrock to the show. Elise,
thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here. What an intro. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
That meant a lot to me. Thank you. That was a great intro.
Absolutely. You have been doing amazing things for a long time. And like I shared before we got on air, I've been watching you from afar. That sounds really weird. I've been following your work and the things you've been doing from afar. And like I said, it's been just really inspiring as I figure out like my place in the city and like how I want to step into my own power, use my platforms and yada, yada. I think you're one of the people that does so unapologetically, and it's models for me what it looks like to do that. So thank you. Yeah.
I mean, we have to like build what we want to see in our community, right?
For sure.
That starts with us. Everything starts with how we show up, how we choose to act. And I believe, you use the word I use all the time, which is modeling.
Yeah.
And I think, especially in times right now where everything feels really heavy, hard, and people are having a harder time than ever just making it day to day, sometimes people need a little help seeing what a better life can look like.
For sure.
What better behavior can look like. So anytime we can like step up and show them what that can be, that's how we build better community.
100%. It's that the work of undoing generations of
precisely
maybe not incorrect modeling, but just modeling a way that isn't necessarily conducive to including everyone and making space for everybody to live as their full selves.
Yeah, it's an unlearning.
Yes, we're definitely going to get into that. But I mentioned at top you're a traveler, and I actually wanted to start with travel.
Yeah.
You just returned from a trip and celebrated a birthday.
Yeah.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
I was wondering, do you have a recovery period when you come back from travel, or do you just get right into things when you come
do.
back?
Okay. I think travel is so important for me because it is crucial to get out of your day-to-day. I love Indianapolis. I love Indiana. I choose to be here. It is not the center of the universe. And it is really important for the people who are doing policy work, who are doing day-to-day change work, to understand that so you don't get burnt out,
right?
So you don't gatekeep, so you don't have an isolationist mindset. And so you can see how other things are done in places around the world that largely share issues that are similar.
Sure.
So I love going and having, the privilege to travel around the world. And, I was in Brazil over the last couple of weeks, and I was in a couple of areas, drove out into rural Brazil. And you know what I drove by a lot of? Cornfields.
Okay.
And it is winter in Brazil, and the festivals that they were celebrating were harvest festivals, where everything was bonfires and wearing flannel and eating a lot of popcorn and corn soup. It's like soup season in Brazil.
Interesting. Okay.
So I was like super down for that.
Yeah,
I ate so many amazing things. Oh my gosh. So, it's important to travel to see how we solve problems in different ways from different perspectives, but it's also important to travel to see that communities, family systems, large, whether it's criminal justice system or foodways or environmental systems, we're all trying to solve the same problems.
Right.
So maybe we should all, help each other carry that load.
For sure.
I was going to say, to answer your question, I do try to have a recovery period
for sure.
just to process everything that I've learned.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying, like, Indy is not the center of the universe. I think I grew up in Rensselaer, Indiana, so very rural, and it did feel very much like this was where, like, the world starts and ends. And getting the privilege to be able to travel and like, see different things, it really was like, oh, okay, there is so much more. But I was wondering, like, when you go out and travel, do you do an intentional, like, seeking of a perspective shift on Indy when you're out? Or is it just something that occurs because you're an observant person and you see things?
I think I'm observant, but I think the quality that is really important for me is to be radically curious and to not be afraid to ask questions.
Sure.
And to see the opportunities that present themselves with whoever I cross paths with when I'm traveling. In the case of where I was in Brazil, I was so fortunate to be surrounded by, I was there with folks from work with the Episcopal Diocese of Indianapolis. So I was there with colleagues in our companion diocese, the Diocese of Brasilia. So I was surrounded by folks who are largely doing the same type of work that we do in the Diocese of Indianapolis here, but just in a different country.
Yeah.
So I got to ask questions about their work, which is, how to support the Diocese of Brasilia's LGBTQ community in church spaces, particularly folks who are dealing with religious trauma from other religious experiences, how to equip their parishioners to feed unhoused people, which is the same thing we do out of Christ Church Cathedral every single week. So these are mirror things that are happening in Indy and are happening in Diocese of Brasilia. So I had a lot of people who could answer all of my questions. And that was really, really fortunate. Last summer, I spent a month in Ireland. I was totally by myself.
Yeah.
And in that case, I just, I'd be sitting at a pub having dinner and the person next to me would say hello and I'd say hello. And then all of a sudden I was, talking to some musician from 3 towns over who came to, the certain pub I was in just to hear the trad musicians, and I would ask questions of them. So it's all about just being radically curious, being open to whatever is presented to you in that moment, and then taking that information in and not having an agenda.
Yeah.
Not be like, oh, well, I'm thinking of the next thing I want to tell this person.
For sure.
It's what new thing am I about to learn because I have crossed paths with this person, and what a blessing that is. Modeling
what like an active listener looks like. And like to be like, I feel like the word radical has become like somewhat overused in ways because it's applied to concepts that I think we should just be doing, Well,
and I think a lot of what's happening right now in some really vast polarization everywhere is we're not having discussions because we're not listening to other perspectives. And we can practice that all the time. It doesn't have to just be in politics. It can just be when you're sitting at a pub.
100%.
But it's a practice. And, everything can be a discipline and a practice. And I'm not trying to over systemize things, but if you want to show up a certain way, you have to be, intentional.
Yeah.
And it's really life-giving for
sure.
me.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all that. And I'm wondering where two things come from, and maybe they come from the same place. This like love to travel and like get away or to get out and explore. And then also like this radical curiosity. Where are those rooted in?
I guess I feel like every day just feels like a gift. And part of that, I think, comes from my recovery. I'm, this December, I will be crossing my 8-year recovery from alcoholism.
Okay.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. And I just feel like every day feels like such a gift.
Sure.
After getting over that kind of like challenge. And but I've always been someone who just wants to just really live into my life.
Yeah.
I come from a family who is an immigrant family. They had to go through a lot to get here. And I think that's why my existence is equal part fighting to make this world better and also finding the joy and the adventure in life, because you can't do one or the other only.
Sure.
Because it almost forsakes the other.
Sure.
Because I watching kind of my mom and her siblings, and their upbringing as first generation American kids, it was hard to acclimate.
Sure.
And I want to break that generational cycle that it always has to be hard.
Right. Well, and so I was adopted, so I did not grow up in an immigrant family. What I've learned, though, from my friends who are first gen, second gen, third gen, is that what they've discovered through the relationship with their parents is like this drive to assimilate. And then like in Asian households, it's like doctor, lawyer, engineer, like the push to do all of that. It was not out of like, we don't want you to be this version of yourself. We are doing this because this is what like safety looks like. And this is the only way we can do that. This is the only way we kind of know how to do that, because the system of immigration and the way that our society is set up kind of pushes you to a margin where you can only really see that way.
Safety is such a huge part of, I think, what I saw my grandparents, what I saw my tias and tios. I mean, even my parents and my family like gravitate towards, and I get it and I understand that. And I don't know, for some reason, and I think part of it is being an eldest child. You're the person that has to figure things out on your own, which is such a gift to me. I think that's such a gift. It helped me kind of like break away from that a little bit. I've also had a lot of challenges, and, no one wants to go through tough times, but it's also helped me learn a different type of empathy.
Okay.
It's given me perspective. And, I want to live a life that is for me.
Sure.
I know who I am. I've done a lot of work to figure that out.
Yeah.
I don't know all of who I will be, and I'm okay with that mystery as long as I am, living in alignment with like where I am right now.
For sure.
I know I'll get there. But I do have like some kind of like rock solid values that I live by, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah. I love that. I love this idea of like, I want to live life for myself.
Yeah.
Because I think the work that you have been involved in your career has been in service to others. And is that something that you felt like you've always known, like you want to live the life for yourself, and to do that, you're going to be a steward for other communities? That's always been kind of locked in? Yeah,
that's absolutely it. I mean, I've always seen myself as like the village Tia, right?
Okay.
The person that doesn't have biological children by choice, because I want to make sure that I'm taking care of the whole community, and that's going to take time. And I've always been really realistic about the type of time that takes. And I had such amazing women in my life growing up that kind of embodied that like Tia auntie aspect, that I was like, oh, I actually see myself in that. So I've kind of known that about myself for a long time. And it's like, I actually do, as part of my own self-care, I need a lot of alone time. I am pretty good at being introverted. I like quiet. I like reading. I don't watch a ton of TV.
Okay.
I just kind of like to sit and be with myself. And then that helps me go out and do really hard stuff.
Sure. when you are consistently involved in really heavy or difficult work, like it does, I feel like me personally, it requires a longer period of like, not just like rest, but reflection. And then like to be able to process, because I feel like for 30 years, I was not really affording myself or was afforded by any other people the opportunity to process what I was going through. And then I didn't feel safe enough to share. So I would internalize, and it would take radical things happening in the world to push me in a direction and be like, oh, something's not right here.
Well, and you have to learn how to be safe with your own thoughts yourself.
100%.
And that's something I've learned over time. And that's, again, something traveling solo has helped me with that.
Yeah.
I've learned, I've taken several trips over the last couple of years by myself where I'm all I've got.
Right.
I'm all I've got. And it's allowed me to be alone with my thoughts. And I'm a deep thinker. There's a lot going on in my mind.
Sure.
And I've had to do a lot of work through therapy and other, resources to make sure I'm not thinking in a way that's harmful.
Sure.
And to do this in a healthy way. But I'm a deep thinker, and that helps me do this work.
Yeah. I'm thinking about like, as I try to live my fullest version of myself, sometimes like who I see, who I picture as that version, it's like that person needs some separation from the work that's going on. However, I realize that person is also intricately intertwined in the work. Is there ever like, when you're alone time, is that when you get to separate? Or do you even feel like that's a thing that you need to do? Because since you are locked in on like who you are and why you do it.
Yeah. I mean, you have to put the work down at some point, but that is why community is so important. You cannot do anything alone.
Yeah.
That's why community is important. That's why solidarity is so important. I am someone who generally, in high school, I was never with like one group. I kind of just flowed between.
I very much resonate with that.
Right. You flow between all the groups.
Yeah.
You're kind of the diplomat.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of like that a bit, but I like to work with people and know that I can hand work off, and that we're all, it's like a relay, right?
Sure.
Like you make sure you are working with people who you are in alignment with, who you're in coalition with, who are working with integrity, so that you can, and who are safe.
Yeah. So
that you can say, hey, I am having a hard mental health day. I have to check out. And they say, totally get it. We're going to take it. We're going to take on XYZ today.
Yeah.
And then when you're ready, you can integrate. That is really important in the work that I do. And I have learned the hard way how to build teams and coalitions in that way, because that's not how work was for me when I was, doing a lot of work at the Statehouse. I worked for 20 years in the legislature, and I'm, worked with a lot of wonderful people.
Yeah.
And at times that is how the work was, but like as a culture, that is not how that system works.
Sure.
So I'm trying to build something different in the way political work is done. And I found those pockets of people who are able to do work this way.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to continue to build that out.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I appreciate you bringing up the culture of the work at the Statehouse that you had to navigate. Because we've been talking about that a lot, or you have been talking about that a lot lately. And I was wondering if you could kind of define what that is for folks who maybe on the outside just have no idea what's going on in there. I was wondering if you could just put some words to it or paint the picture a little bit.
Sure. I think most of the people who get involved in public service start with really good intentions.
Sure.
They want to help people. They were inspired by someone.
Sure.
They think they can make a difference because they can.
Yeah.
And they should. And then you get into an environment where most of the rules, most of the culture has been created, especially for like women, people of color. Most of that environment and that culture has been created by people that doesn't look like them, or it hasn't been for them.
Right.
And is trying to largely protect that original creation.
Right.
Which is how power is protected. And anytime you're trying to protect power, that's when public service is not a service. It becomes something different. It becomes a different type of monster.
Right.
And unfortunately, it was my experience that while there are a lot of good intentions and there is a fair amount of good that can come out of that Statehouse, there are plenty of things that I worked on that I'm really proud of in my time. The culture overall was unhealthy for me. You have a lot of folks who are coming down to or up to Indianapolis, over to Indianapolis for 4 months at a time. They are removed from their communities. They are taking lots of meetings with folks who are whining and dining them, late hours into the evening, and aren't having to pay for their own meals, aren't having to support themselves, and then telling everyday Hoosiers that they're not paying enough into their taxes, or that they should not be taking, quote, handouts when they can't make ends meet with 3 of their jobs that they're working to support their family, or because they can't afford childcare, because the state has taken away their subsidies for childcare. So there's a real dissonance that happens.
Sure.
And then when you get into the habit of protecting that, when you know deep down inside that that's probably wrong, and you dig in on that, I think, and you keep protecting that power, it becomes ugly.
Sure.
And then you're protecting something that's ugly.
Very true. Yes.
And then on top of that, for women, it's just a highly abusive space. The horror stories that I have from women who have worked in that environment are totally egregious, criminal, and from what I've heard, and they kind of fall into 2 categories. Folks who know and don't want to report because they see that and think that nothing would happen, and other women who just think that that's how it's going to be.
Sure.
And tend to protect their proximity to power.
Right.
No matter what.
Yeah. I think you've described it as closing ranks around.
Yeah.
Around the abuser.
Right.
Yeah.
All under the umbrella of like people who are abusive.
Right.
And they are the problem.
Right.
They are the ones who are the problem. It's not the people who are whistleblowing. It's not the people who are abused.
Right.
It's not even, the people who are closing ranks are absolutely a problem. They are not the genesis of the problem.
Right. Because it starts at the top. But the people at the top want to focus on the people at the bottom and say that they are the ones causing the problem. I appreciate you sharing all that. And there are a couple things that I want to pull out of here. The first one is like you talked about like people enter with good intentions, and you've talked about the myth of the common good.
Yeah.
I was actually wondering if you could go into that a little bit, because I think I talk a lot about like impact over intent. And I think everybody enters in with a good intention. However, some stuff that I'm talking about for my specific community is like we all want to go for the same common goal, but we don't want to allow other people to exist in the same space. But when I heard you talk about the myth of the common good, I was like, maybe I'm approaching my community to work a little bit, maybe not incorrectly, but differently than I would like to approach it. So I was just wondering, for even my own edification, if you could break that down a little bit.
So what I've seen, and this is, I think when I was talking about it in context, it was specifically to the Hogshead administration too.
Okay, gotcha.
Where you have an administration of folks who are very close-knit, who in the Democratic Party, this is, one of our Democratic strongholds, and that is dangled over the Democratic Party's, heads, because there's ample fundraising.
Right.
And, it's, no one ever talks about the fact that Indy is blue.
Sure.
Indy is blue. That seat will largely be blue.
Right.
And instead it's like, it won't be blue without this one person. So it's kind of a personality-led administration, and you have folks acting as if we can't enact democratic ideals without an abusive culture. And it's using this mythical common good to excuse abusive behavior. And I don't buy it. It's saying that it's saying that this mythical common good is the reason that we should allow someone who knowingly employs an abuser and then gives them a golden parachute into a firm job and then provides that person with city contracts used by our tax dollars to make, 6 figures. And if they had taken the first person who came forward to report about that abuser, several other people would have been kept safe from alleged, from sexual assault.
Right.
So this is where it's like, I don't want to be told that this one person in a whole slate of people who have attempted to come forward and to lead in this party, many, many people who have tried to come up in the ranks and who have done everything and are doing all they can to build community, somehow aren't there. And this is the only person that can advance progressive ideals.
Right.
Like, I don't buy it. That's a mythical common good.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for breaking that down. That makes a lot of sense. And that actually makes me think about another thing that you had mentioned in an interview. It might not have been you. It might have been you, maybe Morgan. It's talking about how we are in a democracy, but the administrations that are operating are not democratic. It's more of a dictatorship.
Right.
And like what you just described, like that's what that sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, because there are several people who have tried over the years to be part of representative democracy. Carla Lopez Owens is a really great example of that. Back when State Representative Blake Johnson ascended into the Statehouse, into his position now, that meant there was an open caucus seat. And you have a young Latina woman who you never see that woman without a clipboard because she is out organizing, who put her name in. She's lived in the district. And the Hogshead administration and Thomas Cook decided, no, we want our guy. And I know firsthand because I was helping Carla.
Yeah.
That was one of the most disappointing experiences in politics that I think I've ever had, because here you had people in the neighborhood, people in the community, the actual elected PCs all supporting this young, rising candidate who represented the neighborhood, a neighborhood with a highly concentrated Latino community. And then you've got this person who said that immigrants are like weeds in their blog post on immigration, who is handpicked by the powers that be, who the powers that be had appointed the PCs that voted. And, Jason Larison got to vote for himself. Carla didn't get to vote in that election. And Jason Larison cast a vote for himself, the tie-breaking vote. and we could have had a young person in the council with a different perspective. So those are the moments where I question, what has this all been for?
Sure. It makes me think about, not to make it take the local to like a national level, but that makes me think about what's happening in New York right now with the mayor's race. So like Zoran won the nomination and then Cuomo comes out and says, I'm going to stay in the race anyways. And like the establishment Democratic Party is backing him.
An abuser.
I just think about what's happening, like everything that's coming to light about the Hogshead administration and then like stuff like that. It's like how we cling to power and how we do it at the expense of the people that we're supposed to be serving. So you talked about, like, especially after all of this stuff is going down, like being in a period of deep discernment in terms of engaging with the party. And as you see, like, people that I think you had worked with close ranks a little bit, like, what does that period, like, what does that discernment now look like for you? And what were you hoping that it might look like?
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, it's looked like grief. I have had to sit with my grief over relationships, over expectations. One of my hats that I wear is I'm a death doula. Dying with dignity is such a huge issue of importance to me.
For sure.
Because the way communities die is a huge reflection and a mirror to how communities live.
Yes.
And I think grief is intertwined into absolutely everything. So I have had to sit with my own grief for a party that I have been working in since I was a teenager, with people who I have expected a certain type of, who I had expectations from, a system that I've dedicated so much of my time to. And that's been healthy to sit with my grief in that way. And, what I've told some of those people, and some have responded to me and some just haven't and left me on red. And that's okay. They're, I think, processing a lot too.
Sure.
Is that this is for all of us. This is not a takedown. This is not a political op. This is a process of healing.
Yeah.
This is tough love.
Yeah.
Love is, can we cuss on this show?
100%.
Love is fucking metal. And this is tough fucking love, which means being really clear about what's not working.
Yeah.
And dedicating yourself to the gritty shit that fixes it.
Yeah.
And that means having to call in your friends. That means having to use your words, sometimes your body, to shine the light where it needs to be shown. And it sucks.
For sure.
Like any relationship that needs work, it sucks.
Yeah.
It's hard. But it is with the hope that it builds something good on the outcome.
For sure.
On the other side, that we can, because we all deserve a political mechanism that builds up and brings in all ideas. We all deserve a workplace that keeps us safe and where people can just come to work and do the thing that they're talented at doing, because our residents need those services.
Yes.
And I'm talking about every service. Absolutely every service is critical to our city. Everybody deserves to know that their mayor is fighting for them and would treat their chief of staff the same way that they would treat anyone else in that building. We deserve so much more. We are deserving as a city, and we have a city full of people, way more than the people who are protecting the scraps of power that people are grasping for right now. We have way more people that keep this city cool.
100%.
We have artists. We have entrepreneurs. We have, really cool creators. We have chefs. We have people just going into work every day to make sure we have our groceries, to make sure our kids are learning. Like, everybody, every single person matters.
Yep.
And Indy stays cool despite all of this.
It insists upon the coolness of itself because of the people that are here. Like you said, despite the fact that the people at the very top, even though are supposedly representing the group of people who want these progressive ideals to happen, stifle some of that growth.
Yeah. And all of us, all of the people, capital T, capital P, we're the ones with the power.
We are the majority.
Yes. And that is something that comes from Valerie Carr. She is a Sikh woman. She is written about revolutionary love. She wrote the book See No Stranger. She is someone, her recent book, Sage Warrior, is something that I read and revisit very, very, very often. And what I pull from for my own personal development, she always talks about we are the majority and we have to act like it.
So how do we go about acting like the majority? Because I feel like we're trying to, and we're really trying to figure it out. And I think obviously the barrier is a political system that says one thing and does the opposite.
Right.
Is it possible for us to act like it in a system like that? And is it possible for us to, quote unquote, radically fix the system? Or is there another method or mode or means that we should be employing to try and radically disrupt what we have going on right now?
I think what helped me unlearn, because I mean, I came up in this system,
For sure,
in this party. And what helped me was to stop accepting narrative. Like when someone says it has to be this way, it's always been done this way, I ask why. Or when someone says we do it this way, I try to think of several other ways it could happen. That's also like why travel is so important.
Sure.
But it doesn't have to be travel. It can just be like reading or
the radical curiosity.
Talking to someone who just isn't in like your neighborhood, or just going to a different grocery store. Like shop somewhere different. I think folks, it is so interesting to me that, you know, when I go to, if you even go to like a carniceria or Saraga or like a Patel Brothers and take someone for the first time and they've only been to like a Costco or like another like
Whole Foods maybe or
they're
Kroger.
Like, what?
Yeah.
This is like a whole other world. I'm like, this is Indianapolis.
Yeah.
This is Indianapolis. So like there are many ways, like food, books, music, soccer. It's all a great way to broaden your perspective here.
Yeah.
And so I guess this all just goes back to like, don't accept the narrative. Like if you're reading something, just think through it. And that's hard because in a society of instant gratification where we want bite-sized information, we want someone to give us like the 3-sentence narrative or less.
Yeah.
And we just want someone to like spoon feed us and we don't want to pause and think through it. That's hard, but we have to pause.
Right.
We have to just be like, okay, well, how does that actually sit with me? Is that the truth?
Yeah. It's okay to slow down and to take the time to think it through because you're still moving forward. It's not like your momentum has stopped. Like you're not literally stopping. It's like, can I think critically about what I've just seen? And we live in a society where the dominant narrative is hit you over the head so many times that we stop being curious and we're willing to accept what's always been because someone has been placed lower on the dehumanization pole than we are.
Yeah.
And generally Black women. But we find excuses, the common good, to justify why, okay, well, I guess I can go along with this.
Right.
Because I can look the other way.
Yeah.
We talked about community, and you talked about like grieving the loss of some community, especially through everything that's been happening recently. And you talked about like, and again, like discerning like who are those people that work for you or not work for you, but like that I can do this work with. Who are, as you saw that community kind of shrink a little bit, have you started to open back up and expand? I feel like you're a community-based person, so I feel like constantly, if not bringing people in, welcoming people and meeting them where they are.
Yeah, I have. So my partner likes to joke with me that like my close friends, which is like just like, you know, like a couple people, I always say it's just the people I would like share like a quick embarrassing photo with. He's like, Elise, it's like 77 people. And I'm like, yeah, but it's just like my close friends. Like if I call an emergency, he's like, it's 77 people. But like, so I am lucky to have so many people.
For sure.
But like I said, I'm a deep person. If you put me in a networking event, I just want to shrivel up. I'm like not very good at, which is why I probably wasn't great in like the lobbying space because like all those receptions, it's just like, I'm like, but like people are like, I want to be like, tell me about your spiritual journey. Like,
going deep. You want to go get deep.
It's like, yeah. I go deep with people, and there are a lot of those people in this community.
For sure.
And that rocks.
Yeah, 100%.
And I feel so lucky to know them and to be friends with them and to be the Tia to all of their kiddos.
For sure.
Like, I am so lucky. I am rich. I am wealthy.
Yeah.
Because I have a community of a ton of people who, like, I can call up when I am feeling down, and
sure.
and it's reciprocal. But as far as like doing the work, I have learned so much from the survivors that I work in alignment with, the survivors of workplace abuse in political spaces. And that has been some of the deepest learning that I have done, because I had to learn on the fly.
Sure.
Coming from, the political space where I know I was a perpetrator of abuse because I was taught the way things were and had no idea what I was doing. And then all of a sudden was like, this doesn't feel right. People were coming to me sharing stories about what had happened to them. Didn't know exactly how to handle it. And then had to learn, like on my own, on the fly, how to be, what's being survivor-centered even meant. That has just taken a lot of learning as I've gone, seeking other resources. I'm so appreciative of some of the national organizations that have come alongside me in my work. And that's all to say that it's never too late to be like, this doesn't seem right. I need to do better.
Sure.
When you know better, just start doing better.
Yeah.
I always say, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for growth.
Right.
And we have been sold a bag of goods for so long. And there are so many people that will tell me, I'm so thankful for what you're doing. I know it's bad, but then they'll donate to folks who we all know are problematic,
right?
Or they'll take the meeting, and it's like that still propagates bad behavior,
right?
So like, this is all about healing a process, and I have learned so much from these survivors who should have never had been in this position in the first place to do this work, to have to teach me, to have to ever share their story. I mean, when someone comes to me, I first tell them, like, you don't ever have to tell anyone this. So I think I've learned the most from these incredibly brave people, men and women, who have come forward with their stories of abuse. And who are so brave to share it, because it's always with the intention that if they share it, it won't happen to someone else, because we know the systems aren't changing quick enough for them to get justice. Like, it doesn't go well for them when they share these stories. So they are doing it for other survivors. And that's so fucking noble.
Yeah. The most, like, one of the most radically empathic things that you could possibly do is to utilize your lived experience in the hopes that it's going to keep somebody else safe.
Knowing you're going to get re-traumatized.
Exactly. And knowing that in the era of instant gratification, that videos and photos and misquotes are going to be played over and over and over again. And that will become the dominant narrative. And you have to then hopefully not fight alone against that system. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I was going to actually segue into a different thing, but now I got to ask a different question. So you're talking about like people being brave enough or feeling like they've reached a point of bravery where, like, I'm going to use my voice in this way. On June 9th, there was a city council meeting, and the city council leadership, Democrats, sent officers to assault you and Lauren Roberts and others out of the building. And you wrote an op-ed afterwards, and you mentioned how you knew there were other people of color there that wanted to testify. And after they watched what happened to you both, they were like, nope, like, I'm not going to do this now. And when we see the system like push so hard against folks like who are using their voices to scare other people, what do you say to folks who see something, feel a very valid fear to step back? What do you say to folks like that who we need them as part of this work?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this case, in this certain scenario, we were able to talk with that person. And like you said, solidarity is key.
For sure.
So building a safe coalition where people can where everyone has a role. Sometimes that's going to be public. Sometimes that isn't going to be public, but every single person has a role, and you build solidarity in that way. So in that case, we were able to speak with that person, learn more about them, make sure they felt safe and okay, and check in on them.
For sure.
So I'm glad we were able to do that. And from then, we have been able to talk to them about their story and find safe ways for them to share their story.
Yeah.
And get additional resources that they need. Because none of this is happening in a vacuum.
Right.
All of these folks who have these stories to share, their work has been kicked off of trajectory, which means their earning potential has suffered, which means they need help making ends meet. Sometimes they may have medical issues. So that was, my first priority was making sure, like, is this person safe? Do they have their needs met?
Yeah.
Do they have resources? That's solidarity.
For sure.
And we were able to do that. And now our coalition is bigger.
Yeah.
So I would say not every story has to be broadcast. Every story absolutely matters. And there is a role for everyone. And Bell Hook says healing doesn't happen in isolation. So we are here. If it just means sharing a story, privately, via Signal chat, we'll listen. If you want to go further than that, that's fine. But we have resources, whether it's legal, whether you need mutual aid, whether you need help finding mental health resources, like, we're here. And it doesn't have to be broadcast, and it doesn't have to be public. But if people do find themselves in a space where they feel like they need help, reach out, because doing it alone is a lot harder.
100%. We're not meant to be isolated in that way.
Mm-mm.
And I appreciate you saying that, because I think people just hearing someone say that we're here for you, like, we don't get empowered to share in any way or to connect in that way. We're encouraged to isolate further.
Yeah.
And so to just know that somebody is available to listen, like, is huge.
And I'll say, when we have a story that is published or that comes out, I usually hear from at least a half a dozen people that say, please keep going. I'm struggling with XYZ. It's really bad where I'm at. I'll never come forward. Thank you. So that's how I know this pool of people who we are helping is large. Yeah. Even if it was one person, it would be worth it, but it is a lot of folks. And there's a whole community of people that we are pushing for, and we're going to keep going.
You're awesome, and the work that you do is awesome. And the situations that you're advocating for, not awesome.
No.
And it speaks to the power of why community is so important. And not only building and finding and creating community, but even just having the threads of Lifeline available for folks.
Yeah, and it's
I grew up without the threads.
And it's really like I got to say their names: Lauren Roberts, Caroline Eller, Morgan Bronson, Maggie Adams McBride, Lauren Embry. I mean, DeAndre Baker, like the people who have come forward to say, like, enough is enough, knowing what it costs. That's pretty incredible.
100%. Okay, so we've been talking about community, which brings me to our recurring segment that we have on the show called Give Them Their Flowers, where we ask our guests to shout out a person or persons that they feel like deserve their flowers right now. And I feel like you probably have a list of people to shout out. I have one shout out in particular I would like you to tap into, maybe, if you were okay with it.
Yeah, lay it on me.
I was wondering if you could shout out Tayto, the horse.
My horse.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I loved my horse in Ireland. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you brought this up. Okay. Tayto, my horse, was such a cool horse, and also was the horse at the stable that was a special needs horse. And a lot of people did not want to ride that horse because he had kind of a brain tick, and they were like,
Sure.
Are you cool with this? I was like, let's do this. I mean, worst case scenario, I guess I've got a cool story where I'm just like hoofing it through the Irish countryside. Can't be worse than this car that I like broke on the way here. Like they saw
Horse
the car.
made it back in one piece.
Tayto was totally fine. Also, he was named after potato chips, which I love. So
I was wondering if it was a Lord of the Rings reference.
Oh.
I thought it was a Lord of the Rings. It was potatoes.
Potatoes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like it though.
I do like that reference though. But no, it's a brand of potato chips there.
Okay.
But I loved Tayto. And actually I keep one of the other writers took this like photo of me, and it's like this sweeping like Dingle Peninsula, and I'm riding Tayto, and I like keep that photo out in my home because I'm like, I just love that.
Love it.
Also, fun fact, I have been working, like this really brings it full circle. I have been working, with Lauren Roberts since 2017.
Right.
I have known who Thomas Cook is for quite a while. I have been trying to get justice on this particular case for a while. It's been hard. It's been grueling. I was riding that horse when that first story broke.
Damn.
And I got a notification on my phone. And I picked up my phone and I looked at the breaking news and I put the phone back in my pocket and just kept riding through the countryside.
Oh my God. Well,
so thanks for asking about the horse.
For sure. Shout out to Tayto.
Mm-hmm.
Tayto. I don't want to mispronounce Tayto's name. Wow. Okay. I did not realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else you think deserve their flowers right now? You mentioned Lauren again. Like obviously everybody, all the survivors,
all these survivors, not
up.
even just the survivors, of the administration. There have been so many people who over the years who have, tried to come forward under knowing that it would be difficult. Former state representative Mara Candelaria-Reardon, Gabby Brock, Sammy Lozano, and Natalie, anybody who has a story to share and who has shared it, knowing that it would be difficult to do it, but also help us, help communities move forward together to heal. Like those are the people I absolutely give flowers to.
100%.
I do have another person I would love to give flowers to.
Yeah.
That's the United Food Workers, Local 700. Okay. Right now, they are in their negotiations. They just voted against the second round of negotiations with Kroger. They are fighting for better wages, better pay. They're the people who are literally putting food on our table. Solidarity is so important. We're fighting for workplace safety. We have to make sure we're fighting for all workplaces everywhere.
Yeah.
And the people who are fighting in organized labor are such a huge part of that, whether it's workplace safety, whether it is, in solidarity with farm workers and immigrants who keep our entire country fed right now.
Yep.
And the way they are being treated. So I'm giving my flowers to Local 700, the United Food and Commercial Workers as well for the work they're doing, because when they fight for better treatment, literally everybody gets treated better.
Absolutely. Love it. It's always, so we just had a Maya Mims on and she shouted out all the people behind the scenes working to make big events like the All-Star Game happen in Indianapolis, which is awesome. Shout out to everybody who's always on the ground doing it. But we do not shout out enough the people who are literally making our cities and our homes and the country run. We just do that dehumanization work, or we just don't even think about it. So shout out to them and thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
As we start to bring it home, I read or heard you say that you wanted to enter into this new year. So you just had a birthday, we mentioned.
Yeah.
With more clarity.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, what are you wanting more clarity on, and what are you seeing more clearly now as you approach this next whatever it might be?
The interesting thing is, it's mostly that the things that I've been working on are working. My partner's dad had this saying, everywhere we go, there we are. And I love that. because I really feel like I've kind of always been the same person, even with all the challenges I've been through. I've kind of always just been me. And I've kind of always approached life in a similar manner. So, and I kind of I've learned to love that.
Yeah.
And I love my life. I've built this life that I'm grateful for every day, that I'm excited about every day, that I love. So I just want to be more clear about living into that. I don't know that I really want to change too much, but I just want to keep being myself and showing up, and giving myself space to do that and rest enough to do that and being open to whatever comes my way. So I'm really secure in who I am. But like I said, like what that will be, I don't know. And I'm okay with that.
I love it. I feel like I'm resonating deeply with it because I feel like I'm in the same space right now, navigating and unpacking my lived experience and realizing, you know what, I think I've always liked who I was, even when I hated who I was.
Yeah.
I think I've always known who I was supposed to be. I'm just now getting the opportunity to live into it. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
You said you're seeing things that you've been working on come to fruition, start to work. Anything in particular right now that you're really proud of, excited about, that you want or need people to know about that they can support or follow right now?
Yeah. I mean, I think, doing this work to like work alongside people who are really trying to heal what's happening in politics is important because the world is a mess. And when things get messy, you have to put them back together. So I'm hopeful that if we're doing this hard healing work, when it comes time to put it all back together, we're going to have a stronger foundation. So one, I think that's important. Two, I'm just like kind of giving myself permission to lean into spaces that don't seem conventional, but are very, very much make sense for me and are interdisciplinary. The death doula work. Grief space, grief counseling, all of that is so interdisciplinary to all of this.
For sure.
So, and it's important to me. This fall, I'm going to be starting a new journey. In addition to all my other jobs, I'm not quitting any of them. I'm just adding another one. I will be starting as a professor at IU Bloomington O'Neill School.
Okay. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
I'll be teaching in advocacy and public law. So as I work in coalition to try and heal political spaces, I will be helping, in a 300 level sense, teaching engaged young students how to engage with advocacy and public law spaces, which is super exciting for me to be back in an academic space, which I was never really like. I did 4 years of college and was like, I'm ready for the real world.
I did 2.5 and said the same thing.
So to go back now, but bring like life experience and to teach students in that setting, like the practical skills that I've learned and how to do advocacy kind of from my vibe.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about. So yeah, I'm super excited. There's just never a time in my life when there isn't something I'm looking forward to.
I love that. I want to make sure I'm living my life that way because I feel like we've talked about it, the world is a mess. It's a shit show. Everything that you see and hear right now is usually pretty negative, and rightfully so because everything is kind of pretty terrible. But I'm like trying to figure out how do I continue to remain like tap into that optimism, tap into the light. It's
a both and. It's like things are heavy, and I never shy away from that.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're following me, I'm going to go in and I'm going to talk about it. And there is so much joy, and to live a life that is full enough to hold it both. Like what a gift. Like what a gift. I am so grateful for my life and all the people in my life that help make that possible.
100%. Well, I am so grateful to you and everything that you shared in this short conversation, and just being vulnerable with us and coming on the show in the first place. Like it means a lot, and I have a lot of gratitude to have you here. For people out there that are watching, listening, following along right now, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you if they need or looking for resources, looking to connect with someone, build community, or even just learn politically what they need to be doing right now. How's the best way to support you, follow you, find you? How do you want them to do that?
Yeah, you can find my info. You can follow me online at Elise Shrock or EliseShrock.com. You can find all my information there. And always, please be following along on your local journalism. Follow local journalists to make sure you know what's happening in your community. And then if you need help breaking down what's happening or getting in touch with them, of course, you can always, get in touch with me. I'm happy to help.
For sure. Local journalism, more important than ever. They just cut the funding right now, so not great. Again, the mess of the world, and we're going to make shit work because we don't have a choice but not to. Elise Shrock, thank you so much for coming through. Absolutely. Everybody else, new episodes of this show on Tuesdays. Actually, I don't really know what's going on right now. You'll find new episodes wherever you want, anything Conversation Piece related on our website, conversationpiecepod.com, at Conversation Piece Pod for everything else on the social media apps. And I think that's about it. I'm going to wrap it up for the team here. That's Sean Overton of Popular Rapture on the mics, Mike Lee and Mike Lee Productions on the cameras. Shout out to Pattern and the Studs for this space. Shout out to Madeline McKinnon and Frida's Flowers for sponsoring the show, and shout out to Elise Shrock for being an incredible guest and just amazing human being. Shout out to me for hosting the show. I've been Patrick Armstrong. This has been Conversation Piece. We'll see you soon.